Hello. Today we will talk about naturalism. And while there is many aspects of naturalism in current literature, like it was specifically a movement during the late 1800s and the early 1900s. Also, in order to understand naturalism, since it's very similar to realism, we got to understand realism first. Okay, realism. What it is that it portrays life without sugarcoating, which means it doesn't really hide all these truths of reality. It shows reality as it is, like no fantasies, whatever. And it's very detailed. Like it portrays society as it is, colors as it is, what society does, etc., etc. And it just rejects pretty much what romantics did with the imaginative settings and all this magic and supernatural. And naturalism is practically realism, but it has an extra, and that is determinism. And what determinism is it's a philosophy where you really don't have freedom to choose what you choose. It's controlled pretty much by natural factors, whether it's like they're external, whether they're internal, like genetic factors, whatever. Okay. And like it shows characters as puppets practically, and they're controlled by their biological instincts and socioeconomic forces, so they don't really have free will. They do have a will, but it's enslaved.
Forces beyond the character's control. Characters are dominated by external or internal forces, environmental, social conditions, chance, and internal passions. Survival of the fittest. It's influenced by new scientific theories of the time, like Darwin's evolution theory. Its corollary is survival of the fittest. A fight for survival brings out the brute within each individual. Conflict is often man versus nature or man versus self. The indifferent and omnipotent power of nature. Nature is as an indifferent force acting upon the lives of humans. Works often describe the futile attempts of humans to exercise free will in a universe that ironically reveals that free will is an illusion. Like violence and tragedy is often the result.
Subject matter. It deals with raw and unpleasant experience which reduce characters to regrading behavior as they struggle to survive. For like examples from characters from middle and lower classes, generally poor and uneducated and unsophisticated. Characters are commonplace and unheroic. Life is usually the dual struggle of daily existence, but the characters can be associated with the heroic or adventurous. Often violence and passion lead to desperate moments. Often violence and passion lead to desperate moments and violent deaths. Panoramic slice of life drama, often a chronicle end of despair. Naturalism tries to apply scientific principles of objectivity to its study of human beings. The characters are high-ordered animals, fully subject to forces and hereditary and the environment. Human beast studies impartially without moralizing their natures. Story told in third person. Narrator is detached, objective, and unsympathetic. Narrator makes no comment on morality or fairness of situations. Reader, though, is meant to sympathize with characters.
The naturalists wanted to maintain dignity in adversity. This means they wanted to be true to themselves even though they dealt with adversity. It's conditioned and controlled by environment, social conditions, heredity, chance or fate, or instinct. They had compensating humanistic value which affirmed their individuality in life. Their struggle for life becomes heroic and they maintain human dignity despite degrading circumstances. It is faced with overwhelming and oppressive material forces that control their lives, but they maintain their self-worth. This means that they wanted to do better for themselves, and they stayed together, worked together, cried together, went through a lot of struggles, but they kept trying to do better no matter what odds were stacked against them. They embraced moral values and family over everything else. The three most important notable American naturalists were Stephen Crane, O. Henry, and Jack London, but the most important was Stephen Crane. He was a journalist, poet, author of short stories and novels. Crane is known for themes of naturalism, a lyrical style, and vivid imagery in both poetry and prose. Stephen Crane wrote lots of well-known poetry, short stories, and novels. He was born in New Jersey. He was the youngest of 14 children in a literary family. Taught himself how to read at age 3. He started writing at age 8. He had a newspaper feature published at age 15. He was a regular contributor to New York Tribune by age 16. He earned international fame for his novel The Red Badge of Courage at age 24. As a war correspondent, Crane traveled to American West, Cuba, Mexico, and Greece. The Open Boat is one of his best-known short stories and a classic example of naturalism, and he gained most of his fame from this. The Open Boat is a fictional account of a true experience. Newspaper reporter Stephen Crane was sailing to Cuba on the Commodore when the ship went down off the coast of Florida. After his encounter, Crane wrote a newspaper article about it. He described it in much detail, but barely mentioned the 30 hours spent in a 10-foot dinghy adrift the coast of Daytona Beach. A year later, Crane shared his experience in the short story. Examples of naturalism in the Open Boat are Man at Mercy of Indifferent Natural World, Role of Individual in Community, Importance of Human Relationships.
And this is a small part of the Open Boat. When it occurs to a man that nature does not regard him as important, and that she feels she would not maim the universe by disposing of him, he at first wishes to throw bricks at the temple, and he hates deeply the fact that there are no bricks at no temples. And here's like his naturalistic poem, and this is actually it. Like, that's how short it is, but it's very meaningful to the naturalist world. A man said to the universe, "Sir, I exist. However," replied the universe, "the fact has not created in me a sense of obligation." And this practically means, like, the universe, it kind of shows, like, the naturalist view of the universe, like, being indifferent towards humans. Like, yeah, we're just humans, we're just animals, we're just part of the universe, and, like, you're like the universe is just like there, and we're part of the universe, but the universe doesn't care. Like, we're just simple particles of the universe, period. And that's how naturalists pretty much viewed humanity.